Kia ora, Annette. I'd like to ask you now about what you've just alluded to and these charges of sedition. I'd like to ask you, Annette, please, what do you think it's a symbol of that in a society where it's alleged that you were bugged before the Tūhoe raids, that now possibly you're going to be voted into that very parliament?
I think when people see people have been had unjust situations inflicted on them or have been the victims of injustice and they know that they fought back, those people don't sell out, don't compromise, then I think those people that once thought differently of you have had to reflect and step back. I know that many people that were involved in that foolish effort on behalf of the state to try and drag down some very high prominent people at that stage, the late Sid Jackson, Mike Smith, Hannah Jackson, we were all tarred with a brush of activists without support, and I think as time's gone on they've seen us as activists with human rights principles that have actually huge support and have been so strong in their convictions that the strength of our convictions have withstood the pettiness by politicians who were threatened by what we said. So those are the good things about it. I think personally for me, I grew stronger from the experience because there's nothing like the threat of incarceration to actually make you think sharply. And I was hugely supported during that period by a group of lawyers who always said things to me like, I might not agree with the things you say, Annette, but I agree with the right for you to say them. And those are the fundamentals that really bring the glue of our society together. I don't like what's going on for the poor at the moment. I find it a travesty to go to court and just see this conveyor belt of our finest young men going to jail. And that's got to stop. And I don't think I'm able to stop it doing the job I'm doing now. I've got to find another way, and hopefully this pathway, if the people support me, will enable me to make those changes that I think are fundamental. I want a vibrant Māori community to come out knowing that they are strong, knowing that a country cares about them, and knowing that the value of a job and that they are worth at least an attempt to get full employment so they have a job. And those are things I grew up on. They are values that are deeply inculcated in my soul, and they are values that should be in this generation. They are our future, and they have the power now.
Coming back to those Tūhoe raids, what do you think the real issue was? What do you think that battlefield was really all about?
It's very difficult to comment because there are 4 people outstanding who are facing matters before the court. But I can tell you for the collateral damage, those like the queers and the children that were wrongfully detained that morning on the 15th of October, nearly 5 years ago, what that was about was an effort by the state to assert their sovereignty over the peoples of Tūhoe. And thankfully, the peoples of Tūhoe have fought that and now have come out the other side with their mana motuhake intact. And now, hopefully, they will be able to use that finding in the Supreme Court as the basis for some compensation for those people that are the innocent. They are claimed as collateral damage by the state, but they were the innocent. Tūhoe in Rātoki has 3,000 members of the community. Their mums and dads, grandmothers and grandfathers, taking their grandchildren to school and going about their business. No one should ever have been subjected to the barricade. It was almost like a World War II Nazi Germany war zone for them. I hope that the memory of that is something that's being erased, and I hope for the children that suffered then that they actually get recognised in some positive and fundamental way as those that were the true victims of a poorly thought out police operation that targeted wrongfully the peoples of Tūhoe.
Just finally, at the moment Parliament is trying to rush through some surveillance laws. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that MMP shows how when you have people that have a right-wing agenda like the National Party and some of the supporters they had in ACT, that MMP politics can actually work. I was a strong advocate as part of the submissions process with the Criminal Bar Association and other human rights organisations to say that this piece of legislation is bad. I think Sir Geoffrey Palmer described it as a constitutional departure of the most fundamental kind in the way that it ignored the rule of law. Thankfully, that's been listened to. But if we didn't have MMP politics, we would have had politicians telling the Supreme Court that they know better, that they would prefer the opinion of a lower court, the Court of Appeal, than the Supreme Court, and that they would not listen to the highest court of the land. That of itself is a breach of the parliamentary conventions around parliamentary sovereignty. Thankfully, they've been brought to task on that, and they've been brought to account for that, and the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice have been shown up for actually lacking courage to hold fast to legal principles that were nurtured in them at law school, but obviously they've forgotten.
Kia ora, Annette. And finally, I'd like to give you the platform to say something to all of those who are watching, who are going to be coming up and voting in this year's election.
Well, I think that this is an important election. We're in the cusp of the 21st century and we don't like what's happening in our country. I know all New Zealanders feel the same way. We have a burgeoning unemployment problem. We have a government that proposes to deal with that by selling off the country's assets. But more fundamentally, we have a burgeoning poor and marginalised and dispossessed group feeling less and less enfranchised by this country. Mana, the movement of the people, will change that. We will stand with the poor and the marginalised, but we will stand with the country because we do believe in the constitutional principles of Te Tiriti o Waitangi and He Whakaputanga as guiding us forward into the future. Finally, we want all of you under 30s that don't vote to recognise that you have the power. Mana wants to be something that is attractive to young people because you are the future. For that to occur, young people need to get on the roll. They need to actually get mobilised, come down, listen to the policies, debate the policies, and hopefully come out on the 26th of November and have a say.
Tēnā rawa te koe te rangatira. He mārei kura, everybody. Very noble woman. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again after the break.